It was a bright summer morning in 1972 when Flight PX216 prepared for takeoff from an international airport in South America. The flight was a routine commercial journey, heading towards its destination across the ocean in North America. On board were 150 passengers, businessmen, tourists, and families, all unaware that they were about to become part of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. The aircraft, a state-of-the-art jetliner for its time, was piloted by Captain Richard Wells and his co-pilot Mark Denver. Both were experienced aviators with thousands of flight hours, making them well-equipped for the journey ahead. As the flight took off, everything seemed normal. Passengers settled in, some enjoying their meals, others reading newspapers, and a few drifting off to sleep. However, 3 hours into the flight, something inexplicable happened. Without warning, the radar signal of Flight PX216 disappeared from air traffic control. The control tower in North America attempted to reach the aircraft, but all communication had been lost. Panic set in as controllers desperately tried to establish contact. The last transmission received from the plane was chilling. "Control, this is PX216, something is happening, the sky is changing, we are losing visibility." Then, the signal cut off. Flight PX216 had vanished into thin air. Authorities launched one of the largest search and rescue missions in history. Military aircraft and naval ships scoured the ocean. Satellites scanned the skies for any sign of wreckage. Coast guards patrolled remote islands, hoping to find survivors. But days turned into weeks, and not a single trace of the missing plane was found. No debris, no distress signals, no survivors. It was as if the aircraft had never existed. The families of the passengers and crew were left devastated. With no explanation, officials declared Flight PX216 lost at sea. For years, theories emerged. Some suggested it had crashed into the ocean, others believed it was hijacked and taken to a secret location. But no evidence ever surfaced. The world moved on, believing the mystery of Flight PX216 would remain unsolved forever. Until, 37 years later, something unbelievable happened. It was August 2009, at an international airport in North America. Air traffic controllers were monitoring the skies when their radar detected an unidentified aircraft approaching the runway. At first, they assumed it was a scheduled landing. But as the aircraft got closer, something felt wrong. The plane's design looked outdated, resembling a model from the 1970s. It had no modern airline markings. There was no radio communication from the cockpit. When the aircraft finally touched down, the ground crew rushed to the scene. The moment they saw the registration number on the tail, their blood ran cold. It was Flight PX216. The same plane that had vanished 37 years ago had just landed as if nothing had happened. Security teams carefully approached the aircraft. The doors were locked from the inside, but when forced open, a freezing gust of air escaped. The cabin smelled old, like it had been sealed in time. As they stepped inside, what they saw haunted them forever. Every single passenger was still in their seats, but they were all skeletons. Their clothes, luggage, and belongings were untouched, just as they had been in 1972. Some still held newspapers and magazines, their pages yellowed with age. The cockpit was no different. Captain Richard Wells and co-pilot Mark Denver were still in their seats, their bony fingers gripping the controls. The most chilling part, the aircraft was in perfect condition. The engines were intact. The fuel tanks were full. The food in the trays was fresh. It was as if the plane had taken off yesterday, yet inside, time had passed unnaturally fast. The black box was retrieved and played back in front of aviation experts and government officials. At first, it contained routine recordings, pilot communications, flight altitude adjustments, and weather reports. But the final moments of the recording sent chills down everyone's spine. Captain Wells' voice was heard, shaking with fear. "We're entering something strange. The sky is turning dark, everything is changing. Control, do you copy? Something is here. It's coming towards US." Then, a loud static noise followed by an eerie silence. The last thing recorded was a distant, unhuman whisper. "You shouldn't have come here." Then, nothing. The investigation continued for months, but no scientific explanation could be given. Some experts suggested that the plane had entered a time vortex, a rift between dimensions where time passed differently. Others believed it had been trapped in a parallel reality, only to return after decades had passed in the real world. But the most terrifying theory: the passengers were never meant to return. The government quickly covered up the event, removing the aircraft from the airport and sealing it away in a hidden location. Witnesses were silenced, and the airport records were altered. Officially, Flight PX216 never returned. However, pilots flying over the ocean have reported hearing strange transmissions on their radios at night. A voice from the past. "This is Captain Wells, we're lost, help US." The voice repeats every few months, always the same words, always the same distress call. Some believe that Flight PX216 never truly escaped whatever took it in 1972. That somewhere, in the dark skies, the plane is still flying, caught in a loop between time and space. And every once in a while, it finds its way back, only to disappear again. Never to be found. The mystery of Flight PX216 remains unsolved.